The next is separation of cream from milk. Now there are different types of milk available in market, that is full cream milk, toned milk and double toned milk. Full cream milk means it contains high amount of fat in it. Toned milk means it contains less amount of fat, and double toned milk means it still contains less amount of fat in it. So toned and double toned milk are generally used by those people who are maintaining their body weight. So we can separate cream from milk by using centrifugation process. So what is centrifugation process? It is a process of separating component of different densities from a mixture with the help of a centrifuge machine. I repeat, it is a process of separating components of different densities from a mixture with the help of a centrifuge machine. So what happens in centrifuge machine? Here the mixture is made to spin rapidly. So we can say that mixture is separated through spinning. So during spin, what happens? The denser particle, that is milk liquid, is forced to remain at the bottom, and the lighter particle, that is cream, stay at the top or float at the top when are spun rapidly. So there are different types of centrifugation machine available in the market. That is, for separating different components of blood, we use different centrifuge machine. For separating the butter from milk, we use different centrifuge machine. So there are various applications, as I told you before. The centrifugation process is used in diagnostic labs for blood and urine test. It is also used in dairies and home to separate butter from milk. Centrifugation process is used in washing machine to squeeze out water from wet clothes. There you can see the centrifugation process happening. There you can see the machine is made to spin rapidly. Now in earlier time also, people used to do centrifugation process only by conventional method. So they used to do with the help of wooden milk churner. So what they used to do, people used to spin the wooden milk churner inside the vessel containing milk in it, and they used to spin the wooden milk churner rapidly, continuously, and for the long time. And after a long time, you could see the spun like substance or float like substance floats on the surface of the milk, and that is nothing but the butter separated from the milk. So that's how they used to separate the butter component from milk component. Nowadays there are different sophisticated centrifuge machine are available in the market. So I have a video, you just have a. Next is paper chromatography. So paper chromatography is a special technique to separate different colored components present in the ink mixture. As you people know that ink is the mixture of different colored components. For example, if we have blue ink, that means it is made up of different types of blue color component in it. So you can also have the mixture of blue and red ink, or blue, red and green ink, like that. So how to separate these components, that is blue, red or different types of blue color, from the ink mixture? So this can be done only by the paper chromatography. So first we should know the definition of paper chromatography. So paper chromatography is a special technique to separate mixture by passing it in the solution, that is mobile phase, through a medium, that is stationary phase, in which components move at different rates and get separated. So here what happens is, it is a technique to separate ink by passing ink in a mobile phase through the stationary phase, in which we can see the different component mixed in the ink move at different rates and get separated out. So we will understand this definition when we'll see the whole process. So here we could see a mixture in the watch glass. What is that mixture? This is the mixture of red and blue ink. Now we have to take one strip of special type of filter paper that is called as Whatman filter paper. Whatman filter paper is a special type of filter paper which is specially meant for the paper chromatography. And why this chromatography is called as paper chromatography? Because we are using Whatman filter paper. That is why it is called as paper chromatography. So we have to take one strip of Whatman filter paper and we have to draw one horizontal line 1 centimeter above one end of the Whatman filter paper, and at the center of this original horizontal line we have to draw one more vertical line towards upward and mark this center point as P. Now whatever mixture we have in the watch glass, we have to take some mixture through the fine capillary tube which is made up of glass. So here we must not use a dropper or anything else. We must use only the fine capillary tube. So with the help of fine capillary tube, we will put some drop of the mixture at the point P. Okay? And we will let this mixture dry for some time. And after some time, we will again put some more drops of mixture at the same spot, that is at point P, through this fine capillary tube, and we will let it dry again. Now whatever we have made is now called as the stationary phase. So now this Whatman filter paper is called as the stationary phase. Now we have to prepare one chromatography chamber. What we have to prepare? A chromatography chamber. So for that we should have one beaker filled little with water. So here water is acting as a solvent here and it is called as the mobile phase. And we have to mark the level of water. Now the Whatman filter paper is clamped inside this beaker or inside this chromatography chamber vertically in such a manner that the pencil line is above the level of water and the mixture or the point P should not submerge in the water. Now we should cover this chromatography chamber and we have to let it undisturbed for some time and we'll record our observation. Now why water as a solvent is called mobile phase and why this stripe of Whatman filter paper is called as the stationary phase? It is because here water get evaporated or travel, water will evaporate or water will travel through this stationary substance or through this filter paper which is kept stationary. So stationary means what? Static. So it is kept as it is. That is why this filter paper is called as the stationary phase. And mobile means movement, moving. Since water is evaporating through this filter paper and water will be seen traveling through this filter paper. So because water is moving through this filter paper, that is why water as a solvent is called as the mobile phase. Now after some time we will see that the level of water has risen till this level. How will recognize water has risen or water has evaporated through filter paper till this level? We can observe the wet area and from that we will come to know that water has risen till some level. And with the rising of the water level we could see little separation of the components of the mixture. So we could see the red and blue color are now getting separated. Okay, when we leave this setup for some time more, then we will see that the rise of the solvent has come till this point, and the rise of the solvent along with the color component of the ink has also happened. So here after the solvent is evaporated through the filter paper and risen to certain level, you could observe two different spots, that is blue color and red color ink in the filter paper. And when you see the two distinct spots of the colored component of the mixture, we can just take it out, this filter paper, and we can mark the final level of the water risen from its original point. Now this level is called as the solvent front. So how can we define the solvent front? Solvent front is the distance traveled by the solvent or the water from its original line, that is from this line. We can also just round it up, the two spots, that is blue color spot and red color spot, and from its center we can just draw a horizontal line, and we could measure the distance traveled by blue colored spot also from its original position, that is from this spot, from this original position. Similarly, from the center of the red color spot, we will draw one more horizontal line and we'll measure the distance, total distance traveled by the red color component from its original position. So in this way we can just separate out the two colored component mixed in. So in chromatography, ink which contains different colored components or pigments in it, and those colored components and pigments are all soluble in water. That is why we take the mobile phase or the solvent as water. Okay, so let's say ink contains red, blue and green colored component in it, and these all color component have to be separated out through the chromatographic process. So as per the process, we took some drops of this ink on the filter paper. So as this what happens, that water or the solvent or the mobile phase carries these dissolved color components in the ink as it moves up the filter paper, but the rate of movement of the colored component, whatever present, that is red, blue or green color, along with the water is different, as all the components of the ink are not equally soluble in the solvent. That is, if you have red, blue and green color, and if red is highly soluble in the solvent, then it moves faster through the filter paper along with the water or along with the solvent. And if blue is less soluble than the red, then it will move little slower with the solvent along through the filter paper than the red color. And if green color component is least soluble, then it moves at the slowest rate through the filter paper as compared to red and blue color component. That is why we say that the color component which is more soluble in the solvent, that is water or the mobile phase, they rises at faster rate on the filter paper than the less soluble colored components in the solvent. So likewise, as just I told you, you can just see the chromatography has happened here, and you can see the three distinct colors where the red color is at top and green color is at the lowest. So why it is so? It is because this shows that the red color component of the ink is highly soluble in water, and when the water arises through the filter paper, it took the red color at a more faster rate than the blue color and the green color. So that shows that green color is less soluble in the solvent or the mobile phase, blue color is less soluble, and red color is highly soluble in the solvent. That is why it moved at the faster rate through the filter paper. Okay. Good afternoon, students. Now we will see the last portion of chromatography, that is applications of chromatography. So in last class we discussed about the chromatographic process. Now what are its application, where it is used actually? So as we know that chromatography is used to separate colors in a dye, any type of dye, and can also be used for the separation of ink dyes. Different types of ink dyes contains different color components, so those color components can be separated by the process of chromatography. Now it is also used to differentiate coloring agent used in food products. As you know that nowadays many colors are put on the food to make the food or vegetables or other food items attractive, and to show the originality they generally put the color on it. So to differentiate what are the coloring agent used in those food items, we can just separate those coloring agent by the process of chromatography. Now it is also used to isolate plant pigments from root and leaves. If this contains any pigments, so that pigment can be separated by doing the chromatography process. From that we can just isolate the pigments present in root or leaves. Then it is also used to separate mixtures of drugs. Okay, if you have a mixture of drugs and you want to separate it out, those drugs from the mixture, then that also can be done by using chromatography process. Now separation of carbohydrate, vitamins and amino acids also can be separated out, can be done by using chromatographic process. So there is a use application of chromatography process here. You can just note it down, the applications. Now we will see the next separation, that is separation of mixture of two or more miscible liquids. Okay, so to separate the mixtures of two or more miscible liquids, we use distillation process. So students, you would be knowing what do you mean by the miscible liquids? Miscible liquids are the liquids which are soluble with each other. So those miscible liquid mixtures can be separated by different distillation processes. Now what is the definition of simple distillation process? So distillation process or simple distillation process is a process which is used to separate mixture containing two miscible liquids, okay, that boils without decomposition and sufficient differences in their boiling points, that is above 25 degrees Celsius. So as per the definition of distillation, there are actually three criteria given for the mixture to undergo the distillation process. So what are the three criteria as per our definition? The first criteria is that whatever the mixture contains liquid in it, it should be a miscible liquid. Okay, second criteria is the liquids present in the mixture should have differences in their boiling point, that is above 25 degrees Celsius. With example, we will just understand. If we have mixture of two immiscible liquid, that is acetone and water. So if we see the boiling point of acetone, it is 56 degrees Celsius, and the boiling point of water, you know that it is 100 degrees Celsius. So what is the differences in the boiling point of acetone and water? It is about 44 degrees Celsius. Means the differences in the boiling point between acetone and water is above 25 degrees Celsius. So this type of miscible liquids whose boiling differences in their boiling points is above 25 degrees Celsius, so that type of miscible liquid mixture can only be separated by the distillation process. This is the second criteria. Third criteria is whatever the liquids, miscible liquids which are present in the mixture, these liquids can not undergo decomposition process on heating. That means what? When acetone and water are getting heated, they should not change their chemical composition during heating. So those type of only the liquid, miscible liquid mixture can be separated by the distillation process. So I repeat all the three criteria as per the definition of distillation process. First, the mixture containing the liquid should be miscible with each other. Second, the liquid should have differences in their boiling point, that is above 25°C. Third criteria is that the liquid present in the mixture should not decompose on heating or should not change their chemical composition on heating. So those type of miscible liquids only present in the mixture can be hence separated by the distillation process. Okay, we can have some different examples also. First I told you the mixture of acetone and water. Then you can have the mixture of methanol and water. Methanol and water are miscible liquid. They are soluble with each other. And if we see the boiling points, then methanol boiling point is 65°C and water, you know, it is 100°C. The differences is again more than 25°C. So hence this mixture also can be separated by distillation process. And you can have other example like benzene plus aniline mixture. Okay, so we'll just first briefly we'll understand what happens in distillation process through this flow diagram. So if we say a mixture of miscible liquid, that is acetone and water, and we'll start heating it up, then when we start heating the mixture and when we see the temperature comes to 56°C, then all the acetone liquid, it starts boiling and it starts vaporizing. Okay, as you know that boiling point of acetone is 56°C. So acetone starts boiling first, then water, and it starts vaporizing also first. So when acetone starts vaporizing, it goes upward and enters into the condenser chamber, water condenser chamber. There all the vapors of the acetone get cooled down and converts into the liquid, and those liquid hence can be collected through the condenser in a beaker. So in this way we can see that the low boiling point liquid can be made to vaporize and hence can be collected and separated in a beaker, and water will still be there only in the distillation flask. So in this way it is just a simple distillation process where we use this process to separate the mixture of two miscible liquids only. Okay, in simple distillation we can separate only the two miscible liquids from each other. Okay, so we will see the setup. Before we'll see the apparatus used for the distillation process. So you can see here, this is a distillation flask in which we take this mixture of acetone and water, and this is the flask where we heat the mixture. Since it is round in shape, that is why it is also called as round bottom flask. Okay, so you can see here the protrusion. So this can be fixed to this tube. This is called what? Condenser tube, and it is fixed to this tube through a cork here. So this is called as the water condenser. Water condenser, where the vapor of the acetone liquid will come through this way and it will get condensed here in this water condenser tube and converts itself into liquid state. So we can see here an inlet and outlet in the condenser tube. So we connect this inlet, okay, by tap water through a pipe and provide continuous supply of water to this tube. So you can see this is the inner tube, and the inner tube is surrounded by this outer tube, where the inner tube is getting continuous supply of water on its surface, on its outer wall. So water is continuously flowing in and flowing out through water outlet and keeping this inner tube cooled. Okay, so we will see now. We have taken the distillation flask and it is fixed through a iron stand here, okay, and it is again closed with a cork, and one thermometer is put inside the distillation flask to watch the temperature rise. Now you can see that this distillation flask is fixed with the condenser tube, as I showed you now, this condenser tube through a cork. Okay, and we can see this is the inlet of the condenser chamber and this is the outlet of the condenser chamber. So inlet of the condenser chamber is fitted with the tap water through a pipe where continuous supply of water will be provided in the chamber, and this is the outlet. Water is flowing in and then flowing out through this, flowing in and flowing out this outlet. Okay, and the mouth of the condenser tube is then over a beaker where whatever the liquid acetone will drip, it will get collected in the beaker. Okay, so we will take the mixture here in distillation flask and we will start heating it through the burner. When the temperature reaches to 56 degrees Celsius, then whatever the acetone present in this mixture of acetone and water start vaporizing and goes to the upward, and soon they enter into the condenser chamber. When they all the vapors of the acetone enters the condenser chamber, because the tube is getting continuous supply of water on its surface, so that inner tube is cooled actually. So whatever the vapors comes in this tube also start getting cooled and condensed and converts into liquid state, and we can see now whatever the acetone vapor are there, they just convert into the liquid acetone, which can be then collected into the beaker. So in this way we can separate the acetone from water. So here you can see that water is still there. One should be very careful that when we see that all the acetone got vaporized and converted into the liquid state and got collected in the beaker, then we should just switch off the burner. We should not let the water boil. Before that only we have to switch the burner. Okay, so this is about the simple distillation process for separating two miscible liquid mixtures. Okay, now next process is fractional distillation. So fractional distillation is the special type of distillation process, and if we see the definition, this process is used to separate mixture of two or more miscible liquids whose differences in their boiling point is less than 25 degrees Celsius. Hence we can say that fractional distillation process is very much different from the simple distillation process. There are many differences between fractional distillation and simple distillation process. So first difference is that in simple distillation we could separate only two miscible liquid mixture, where in fractional distillation we can separate two or more miscible liquids from a mixture. Second difference is that in simple distillation the liquids contained in the mixture should have differences in their boiling point more than 25 degrees Celsius. But in fractional distillation, whatever the miscible liquids are there in the mixture should have differences in their boiling point less than 25 degrees Celsius. That means what? In simple distillation, we cannot separate those liquid mixtures whose boiling points are very close to each other, that is less than 25 degrees Celsius, For example, if we take the mixture of acetone and methanol, and if we see the boiling point of acetone, it is 56 degrees Celsius, and boiling point of methanol is 65 degrees Celsius, and if we see the difference in the boiling point between them, it is about 9 degrees Celsius. So we can just say that boiling points are very close to each other. So this type of mixture we could not separate, liquid mixture we could not separate out from simple distillation, because as per definition of simple distillation, only those liquid mixtures can be separated whose difference in boiling point is more than 25 degrees Celsius. And here you can see that boiling points are very close to each other. So this type of liquid mixture can be separated only by the fractional distillation process. Now, the most important difference between simple distillation and fractional distillation is that in fractional distillation we use fractionating chamber for the separation. That is why this type of distillation process is called as fractional distillation process. We can have several examples for the liquid mixture which can be separated by fractional distillation. As I told you, first is the mixture of acetone and methanol. Second, the petroleum products. So you know that petroleum contains many things soluble in it, like petrol, gasoline, naphtha, kerosene, diesel. Then you have lubricating oil, fuel oil, and many residual oil in it. So those can be separated only by the fractional distillation process. And third is the mixture of air. You know that air is the mixture of various gases like nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, argon, etc. So those mixture of gases, those gases in the mixture of air can be separated by fractional distillation process. So in fractional distillation you have different type of setup. That is for separating the mixture of acetone and methanol. Fractional distillation setup is little different from the fractional distillation process used for separating the petroleum products, and also for separating the mixture of air from fractional distillation. You have the fractional distillation setup little different. So you could just expect different setup of fractional distillation. Next one is crystallization process. Crystallization process is a purification process which is used to purify impure solid sample to pure solid in the form of crystals. Okay, so let's see the process, crystallization process definition. So crystallization process is a process that separates a pure solid in the form of crystals from a solution. So basically in this process the impure solid sample is made to dissolve in a minimum amount of solvent by increasing the temperature or by warming it slowly to form the saturated solution of it. And when we see that the saturated solution of that impure sample has been made by adding minimum amount of suitable solvent in it, then we can just filter the solution, and then the filtered solution is made to cool down slowly, keeping it undisturbed for some time, and you will obtain after some time the pure transparent crystal of that sample, and that crystal shows that the impure sample whatever we took has been now purified. Okay, so we'll just see the process. So this process we can just test in China dish also, or you can do it in beaker also. So okay, so I have shown you in beaker. What we have to do is we have to take one beaker and we have to put some impure solid sample of copper sulfate salt. So for example, we have taken the impure copper sulfate salt and we have to make it pure. Okay, so what we have taken, the impure solid sample of copper sulfate salt, and we have added suitable solvent. Maybe we have we will add water. For other impure sample, we can use other than water as a solvent also, like alcohol, etc. So here we have used water as a solvent. So we will add water in it and we will start dissolving it, and we will heat the solution here to make the saturated solution of the salt. For that we add more and more impure copper sulfate salt in it. When we see that the solution is now a saturated solution, then this saturated solution is now ready to filter it. So how do we filter? We will filter the saturated solution by passing it to the filter paper. And now whatever the filtered solution we got, it is allowed to cool at room temperature for some time by keeping it undisturbed. And what we'll do, that whatever the filter solution we have, we will just cover it by the filter paper. After some time we will see the transparent crystals with beautiful crystals of that copper sulfate sample, and this is actually the pure crystal of copper sulfate salt. So this is how we can do the crystallization process, or we can obtain the pure crystal of a impure sample. So it has various applications actually. So if we see the applications, so first application we can just see the, is it visible? Okay. So the first application is crystallization process is used to purify salt that we get from seawater. As you people know that by evaporation of seawater we get the common salt, the salt in, so that salt whatever we get from the evaporation of seawater is not at all pure. It has many contamination in that. So it is first directed to do purification process, various purification process to remove the impurities, and after that also we will not get the pure sample, that is 99.9% pure salt we are not able to get. So what we have to do, ultimately at last we have to do the crystallization process in which we get the pure crystals of common salt. Okay, so it is also written here ki crystallization process is used to purify the salt that we get from the seawater. Okay, second is to separate crystals of alum. Alum, you know, you would have studied in your previous classes, potash alum, potassium aluminum sulfate, like that. It is a double salt and it is also called as fitkiri. So if you have the impure sample of fitkiri, so you can just get the pure crystals of fitkiri by just introducing it to the crystallization process. So here also crystallization process is used to separate or to get the pure crystals of alum or fitkiri from its impure sample. And you know students, whatever the salt or any solid sample we get, so ultimately we have to do the crystallization process of every salt to get its pure crystals, because crystals, the appearance of crystals shows that the whatever the solid sample is now there in the form of crystal is the purest one. Okay, so it is generally said that crystallization is better than evaporation process. It is very much correct, and there is reason also for that. What happens that in evaporation process, when we'll do evaporation of any solution to get the salt out of that, then during evaporation process that salt or that solution may get charred. Charred means what? May get blackened, or it may get burnt on heating to dryness. And sometimes some of the salt or the solid may decompose. That means this salt or the solid whatever we get from the evaporation process may just change its chemical composition or can lose their chemical composition. So evaporation is not the perfect method for the separation, or we can just separate it out anything or any solid from the evaporation, but ultimately the salt or the solid what we get from the evaporation process, we have to do crystallization of that to get the pure crystals of that salt. Okay, So many times we do filtration process of some solution. So filtration process is generally meant to separate the insoluble particles of out of the solution. So whatever the dissolved impurities are there in the solution will still remain in the solution also only, and after the filtration, if we want to get that salt from that solution, so we will generally go for evaporation. So on evaporation, that impurity still contaminate the solid. So ultimately, solid what we get from evaporation process is directed for the crystallization process to get the pure crystals or pure sample of that solid. So there are various applications of crystallization process, and it is a better method for the purification than any other method. So that was about the crystallization process.